Block A, client server.
What are TCP and UDP and how do they differ?
TCP, Transmission Control Protocol, and UDP, User Datagram Protocol, are two data transmissions protocols between computers with differences. Data transmission reliability. TCP is reliable, UDP is not. Connection management. TCP requires connection establishment, UDP does not.
What are cookies?
It is small text files that websites send and store on user's computer through a web browser. They are used to store information about the user's actions on the site, such as login, preferences, shopping cart contents, and other data.
There are GET and POST requests. Can you say what the difference is?
A GET request is used to retrieve data from the server. It's less secure. Parameters are passed through the URL, while a POST request is used to modify data on the server. It's most secure. Information is transmitted in request body.
Block B, Web Platform Block. In the web application, there is a JavaScript function, the execution of which blocks the operation of the site. Why does this happen and what can be done?
This usually happens because this function performs long operations that consumes a lot of CPU time. You can optimize the code, use asynchronous operations, divide tasks, use timers, monitor performance.
How to make a website work without the internet?
You can use frameworks for static site generation based on React, such as Next.js or Gatsby. A more old-fashioned approach is to create a website using only HTML, CSS, and JavaScript.
Why is a log file needed when working with dependencies?
It is needed for tracking actions, diagnosing issues, monitoring changes, auditing, vulnerability analysis and other aspects, and security.
Block C, HTML, CSS. Why is layout using only div elements considered bad practice?
Non-semantic code. Semantics mean using elements and tags according to their meaning and purpose. Difficulty in styling and maintaining code. Poor SEO, search engine optimization. Poor code readability and complexity of its support.
How do CSS variables differ from preprocessor variables?
CSS variables, custom properties, are part of CSS standard, support dynamic changes at runtime, and have a limited scope. Preprocessors variables, such as SAS or less, are not part of CSS standard, require compilation into regular CSS, have a global scope, and offer a wider range of capabilities, including operations and mixins. CSS variables are easier to support in modern browsers, but they may be unavailable in older versions of Internet Explorer, while preprocessor variables are browser independent.
Question about CSS. We want to create an animation and we have two options. To change using position, absolute, or using transform, translate. What do you think is better to use and can you justify your answer?
Using transform translate is better, because when animation diagonally, this transform translate, the movement will occur smoothly along the diagonal, whereas when using position absolute, where initial and final coordinates are set, the animation can be not smooth, creating a jumpy effect. Additionally, applying transform translate does not trigger a layout during rendering. making this option more optimized.
Block D. Questions about a browser. What is post message in a browser and what is it used for?
Post message in a browser is a mechanism for interaction between Windows frames from different sources in a secure mode. It is used for transmitting data and messages between different windows or frames in web applications.
What is the frame used for?
Iframe is used for embedding documents or web pages within another document. It allows loading and displaying content from another source within the current page.
How to establish communication between services. How to teach a frame to communicate with the main code.
To interact between services, various methods can be used, such as the post message API for exchanging messages between windows or frames, as well as the use of shared API interfaces.
How to open a new window or tab from a script.
To open a new window or tab in a browser from a script, you can use the window.open method.
When a GET request brings HTML, can you explain in detail what happens when a browser starts parsing this HTML? I'd also like to hear detailed information about scripts and the construction of the DOM, CSSOM.
Upon receiving an HTML page, a browser begins the process of parsing this HTML markup. It creates the DOM, Documents Object Model, a tree of objects representing the document's structure. Then a browser analyzes CSS styles and creates the CSSOM, CSS Object Model. Then combines the DOM and CSSOM into a single tree called the render tree. After that, content is painted and laid out, resulting in the user seeing the displayed web page.
Have you heard about concepts like layout and paint?
Layout is responsible for identifying the location and size of all elements on the page, while paint is responsible for rendering all visible elements on the screen.